My name is Georgie Bell. I have been in whiskey for about 15 years. I was a bartender originally in Edinburgh, fell in love with the whiskey category, and sort of ever since then have just spent, I suppose, the whole of my career trying to learn more and more about it and make it more accessible and more exciting, and how to educate on the category and how to bring more people into it. And so throughout my career as being a global brand ambassador and working very heavily within advocacy and doing various education courses, kind of lent me into building the Heart Cut along with my husband, Fabrizio.
I'm Fabrizio. As same as Georgie, I started bartending at the ripe old age of 18, cutting my teeth in the London bar scene, before eventually moving into the world of marketing. So kind of went into a marketing agency, but that agency was specific for drinks brands. So it was a perfect little segue from a bartending career and not knowing where to go next, and kind of not wanting to be a bar manager or a bar owner, and going into the world of marketing, and in particular experiential marketing. So it was the kind of big events that you see big brands throwing all over the world. And that's actually where Georgie and I met once upon a time. She was working for Johnny Walker and I was running the bar at the Monaco Grand Prix one year. So yeah, it's always excites people when they kind of hear that story. But then from that, in the world of kind of brand building, really being hands-on with the drinks industry. Whilst I was not making a drink or working for a brand directly, I had this wonderful opportunity to kind of work with the likes of the Diageos, the Bacardis, even like Red Bulls, and really just understanding how they've operated in the on-trade and kind of engaging with bartenders and creating this community. Just before COVID, try not to kind of talk about it too much. I moved out of the drinks industry specific and kind of went to more pure marketing, working with a range of different brands, just as an opportunity to try something different. You know, I've been in the drinks industry my whole life. There was always the view that I would come back to it. And yeah, it lasted 4 years before kind of getting itchy feet and diving straight back in head first with the Heart Cut. So yeah, that's my background.
So the Heart Cut is an independent bottler that spotlights distilleries across the world through single cask and small batch releases. Um, as I said before, I've worked in the whiskey industry for 15 years, and I've seen it grow geographically and demographically in that time. Geographically, from the fact that whiskey really does come from everywhere. We were just talking about Mexican whiskey before, where they've got some great distilleries making whiskey from corn, Finnish whiskey, Danish, Australian. South Korea launched its first whiskey just the other week. And so it's this really exciting, engaging space. And that is very different from, as I said, how it was 15 years ago. We've also seen the demographic of the whiskey drinker change in that time as well. And the whiskey drinker today is very different from that drinker 15 years ago. So we wanted to build a brand that helped today's whiskey drinker discover and explore this new world of whiskey in a very guided manner, through collaborating with brands, through education, through accessibility by design. And all of that led us to create the Heart Cut, basically the whiskey brand that we've always wanted to exist, and one that is finally out there.
I always remember because I think I came home from a run one day and Georgie was like, I've got it. I've got the business idea and I've got the name. And it is the Heart Cut. And so the Heart Cut is part of the alcohol, the whiskey creating process. In the distillation process, when you're separating all the different types of alcohols and distilling to get that perfect final end product, you have three different parts. You have the heads that come at the beginning, the tails that come at the bottom, but right in the middle, you have the heart, and the heart is what you take, and that's what will end up in a bottle. And how it relates to us, and it's a real nice play on words because as an independent bottler, we are choosing limited editions. We're choosing one cask at a time. Sometimes we're choosing multiple casks, but it really is just something quite specific. It's the heart of a distillery. And so it's so special. We get so many samples from distilleries, and it's up to us to choose what we like, what we think people will like, what our tasting panel friends would like. And so again, it's the cask that made the cut. It is the heart of a distillery, the liquid that we're taking, and it's the cut. It's made the cut out of everything else that we've had the opportunity to try. So that's where the name comes from.
We're also putting all of our love into this as well. So it is sort of like the heart cut, but it's also, obviously Fab comes from a marketing background. I come from a brand advocacy background. So it's all about storytelling and, bringing the emotion of the distilleries alive through our bottling. So there's that heart love in there as well. So within the whiskey landscape, there are two types of bottlers. You have your original bottlings and your independent bottlings. Original bottlings come from the distilleries themselves. So Glenmorangie 10, the Cotswolds Founders Reserve, Jack Daniels. They're all original bottlings because they've been bottled by the parent company that owns that distillery. There's the other side, which are independent bottlings. And as the name suggests, we are independent from any distillery. So what we do is we buy casks from distilleries and we bottle them under our own brand name. So usually within an independent bottling landscape, independent bottlers may buy casks from cask brokers, so third parties who have warehouses full of casks, and they'll sort of look through a spreadsheet, they'll choose some distillery names that sound attractive, and they'll go, great, we're going to buy those casks, we'll bring them in. What we do is we buy direct from our distilleries, which is really important. And our conversation actually, usually for an independent bottler, the conversation might end when they've bought the cask. Actually, for us, the conversation just begins because it's about how can we tell their story through our bottling. So again, that storytelling piece is really important. In every bottle that we bring out is a true collaboration between us and the partner distillery that we have. Also within the independent bottling landscape, because of the way whiskey has been, there's always been this predominance on Scotch whiskey. Whereas, as we discussed before, there's a whole wealth of distilleries across the world to explore. So we buy whiskey from across the world. So our first three expressions were from Stauning in Denmark, East London Liquor Company here in London, and Kuru in Finland. And then our most recent bottling was from Westwood, an American single malt from Portland in Oregon. So we really are trying to cover the true diverse area of what whiskey can be. And I think what's really fun from, again, being independent is that we're choosing distilleries that we admire. These are all distilleries that we would drink their whiskey, regardless of whether we're in a conversation with them. We love Westwood single malt. We have that at home. Stauning Chaos, Stauning Hoost. We love those whiskies. So we are very much saying these are distilleries that we admire. These are different interpretations of these distilleries through single cask bottlings. And remember, casks are like snowflakes, so no one cask is the same. So these are truly unique bottlings done in a slightly different way. But we're here, we've curated a selection of whiskies and casks from distilleries across the world for you to enjoy. We go about choosing who we work with, honestly, through who we are excited about drinking whiskey from. So so before we started the Heart Cut, we drew up a list of distilleries that we were like, we love these distilleries. Wouldn't it be a dream if we could collaborate with them? And we've pretty much managed to tick off quite a lot of that list, which is amazing. We are basically trying to partner with distilleries that we love and distilleries that geographically showcase the full breadth of whiskey. So Um, from our 7 releases that we have up to date, we know that there isn't within an Australian whiskey. So we have current conversations going with 2 Australian distilleries, again, 2 that we very much admire, that we're really excited to partner with. So we kind of look at what we love to drink, the geographical gaps that we have, and then also what, from a crowd sort of feedback perspective, what our heart cut drinkers are excited by, what distilleries they're excited by that they would like to see us partner with. Actually, we've learned about a few distilleries that weren't on our radar from them that we now potentially might be collaborating with too.
Oh, I have to say the label and the bottle is probably the biggest challenge of starting this business. Oh, Georgie's got a bottle in her hand. I think one of the most prominent parts is on the actual bottle. Is the label is split in two, and this is a direct representation of who we are as a business. You know, half of it is for the heart cut. It's in white. It will most likely always be white. And what we do is on the other side, we want to give as much space to the distilleries as possible. You know, we're not just here saying, oh yeah, we talk about distilleries, they're our friends, etc., etc. We're putting our money where our mouth is, and we're making sure that our label, the thing that customers will see that they will pick up, is equally representative of what we are as a business. And that's giving half of our label dedicated to each distillery. And that's kind of giving the name, giving the information that makes sense. You know, we don't want to bamboozle people. That's why we have the QR code. But when you are going for a whiskey shop and you're looking at all of these different bottles and you're reading tasting notes and stuff says oak or it says vanilla, it really, like, what does that even taste like? Everything tastes like oak because most of the time it's been inside an oak barrel. What we want to do is just talk to people and have these evocative tasting notes. And so milk and honey in front of me is medjool dates, salted caramel, cherry pie. You read that and you go, I get that. You know, I understand what a cherry pie tastes like. I might not have had one recently, but I can kind of understand what I'm going to get. So from a design perspective, it was all about having equal representation for us in the distillery. But then from an information, it's just making sure that we're putting the right stuff on there, making sure that we're talking to people in the right way and making it easy for them to go, yes, this has caught my eye. It stands out on a shelf with multiple other brands amongst it. And when I've picked it up, I'll go, this is a brand for me. This makes sense. I understand what they're trying to communicate. So
And we worked with Freytag Anderson, a brilliant design agency who helped that come to life. And actually, the part I love the most about the label is actually the part cut out in the middle. I think that's really cool and distinctive. And we really wanted to create a whiskey label that doesn't really look like your typical whiskey label, as it were, something that's cool and a conversation starter. So we're really proud with how it's turned out. Our bottles are 500 mils, 50 centiliters in size. And we did that because, one, we wanted our bottles to stand out. Two, we wanted to give this exploratory nature to it as well. So you don't feel like you're committing to like a full bottle. So all of like, because you know, typical bottles are 70 or 75 centiliters, 700 mils, 750 mil. We also wanted to keep the price point at an affordable point, and we found that over the £100 mark is a real price barrier. So all of our bottles are priced at what we got our casks for. And we ensure that we keep that under £100. And so having 50 centiliter bottles also enables that as well. And our prices range from, so our cask and few spirits, which is a rye whiskey finished in a Sauterne cask for 3 years. That's at high 50s. And then the Cotswolds bottling from the Cotswolds distillery in the Cotswolds in England, that's about £89. So they range anything from like high 50s to £90 in price, which for the fact that they're all single cask, the fact they're all one of only 300 to 400 bottles, is and it's not just us saying it, we're told that's pretty good.
I think the biggest thing to note, and as Georgie mentioned earlier, is kind of that change of demographic. There is a new person out there who's enjoying whiskey, and people, but it's not just whiskey. It's so across various different categories. People will go to their local coffee shop instead of a high street coffee shop because they want better. People will spend a little bit more on wine because they want better. There is a whole wave of people who are happy to spend a little bit more on maybe one item instead of buying 3 or 4 bottles of something that they may have bought once upon a time. So, and in what coincides with that is people are after stories. The marketing agency I worked out just before joining the Heart Cup was focused on Gen Z as a demographic, and it's kind of like, what do the younger people want of today? And the Heart Cut is not necessarily aimed at Gen Z, but it kind of does stretch across into the millennials and higher up. It's like, what do people buy into? And they buy into stories. They want to feel as though the brand understands them. The brand is not selling to them, the brand is being with them. And so by creating this QR code, not only did we want to have a neat bottle, kind of from the design perspective, we didn't want to put all of the information we wanted onto the label. Like, we tried, it didn't look as good as we wanted to. And so using a QR code, it really, one of the positives that come out of COVID was that QR code and the fact that people can access so much more information, and be able to kind of go from what is a label and dive into a brand world. And it really ties in with what Georgie said before as well, of we want to tell the story of the brand. It's not about us. If you go through the QR code, you will find out why we chose the cask, why it made the cut, what beer we want to pair it with. And then and then our story to go and get it. So when we went over to Stowning, and on the same trip we went to Legoland, because Legoland is originally from close to Stowning. So it's like, it's our story about going to collect the cask, but most importantly, it's the story of the distillery. So not only do we have product pages, but we have a page dedicated to every distillery we work with on our website, because it's the whole idea. As a business, we've got two customers. We've got the person we sell to, but also the distillery we buy from. And it's the idea that, as we've said, you've bought this cask, you've bought this bottle of M&H, is in front of me, and you really liked it. How do I know about, like, what is there to know about M&H Distillery moving forward? And so then we'll be able to introduce, these are some of the expressions we like. This is their story, because as with craft brands, a lot of it is made of people with really cool stories. Kiru, our release from Finland, 9 guys sitting in a sauna. There are lots of saunas in Finland, and they were drinking an American rye, and they just turned to each other and they went, "We have so much rye in Finland. Why don't we do this ourselves?" And then lo and behold, they then go and create their distillery using 100% Finnish rye. So it's like these wonderful stories that we just want to tell to as many people as we can. And the QR code is just that opportunity to allow people to dive a little bit further if they so wish. Also, and I probably should have started with some, because it's a lot simpler. When you're going into a shop like the Whiskey Exchange, there's so much choice and it's really hard to make a decision. Sometimes being able to scan a QR code can kind of give you the information in a bite-sized way that you won't be able to get on the back of a bottle. Plans for the future. I guess it's we're almost one. So I say we were always kind of coming in with a mindset of do as well as we can. And the worst that's going to happen is we'll lose a little bit of money, but we would have learned so much. Never did we kind of think that in our first year we would win awards, we would have the traction that we've had to be able to build the community that we've had, not only with the end customer, but with the distilleries, with bartenders, with the off trade, the bottle shops up and down the country. We've been able to build this really awesome community, and people like what we're doing. So the plan for the immediate future is to just really like batten down the hatches. The UK is our first market. We really want to just make sure that everything is singing. And so that's continue to build our kind of network, make sure that we're in the right places. As we've said, our audience that we're ultimately going after are these kind of whiskey curious, where do they go and buy their alcohol from, and making sure that we're in all the right places that make sense for them. long term, we will start to expand into other markets and just share the heart cut love with people all over the world. But I guess more kind of upcoming exciting stuff. We've got our first birthday party to throw. That's going to be a nice, really exciting opportunity. We're looking at like partnerships and collaborations. Again, what does our audience value? And like, are we going to partner with a really cool chef? And we're not about infusing our whiskey into a chicken or anything like that, but people like to enjoy whiskey whilst they're having dinner. And so, how can we build these moments? How can we really start to own these occasions? So, that's kind of from a brand perspective. I enjoy drinking whiskey when I'm cooking. I have designated kitchen whiskey. And so it's kind of like, how can we start to really build out these moments and these occasions? So we're just trying to go, instead of having a glass of wine, you can have a whiskey at the same time and people go, oh yeah. So we're just trying to open people's minds into the possibility of when whiskey will be appropriate and kind of how you can drink it, as Georgie said, in cocktails or in a highball, like really trying to break down the barriers of what people think whiskey is, and so kind of what whiskey can be. So that's part of our ongoing mission.
We also have two
Ooh.
new releases coming out in a couple of weeks um, from St. George Spirits in San Francisco distillery. I first visited in 2013. And I've loved ever since. I mean, this distillery was at the forefront of the American craft distilling movement, founded in, I think it was 1982, started with eau de vie, and they see whiskey as an eau de vie of barley. They've got so many cool collaborations going on with local breweries. And actually, we're releasing two, we're actually calling them experimental malts because we can't legally call them whiskey in the EU. So that's really exciting, and that's a big move for us. And then a couple more releases down the line before Christmas comes around. We've got plenty of tastings coming up as well. So we post about these on our Instagram and on our newsletter, but we've got tastings with whiskey clubs and with whiskey bars across the UK. And as Fab said, yeah, we're battening down the hatches and putting our heads down and just keeping on going through, because a founder's life is it's grit, right? And I think in that first year of business, we've learned that the heart cut is something that people want. It's a model that works. Let's just go for it. So that's kind of what we have to come.
What is it like to be in business with your partner?
It's actually, I wouldn't know how other people who aren't together actually run a business together, because we end up, we're always talking, we're always doing stuff. We started working on the heart cut coming up to about 3 years ago now. So we were working on it for a solid 2 years before we ended up launching. And fortunately, we ironed out all of the creases before we launched. What I like to say is we're yin and yang. What I'm good at, Georgie's okay at, and vice versa. But we're also, we've worked in two completely different ways. So I've worked kind of marketing, kind of very operational, organized led, kind of working in teams, managing teams of people, whereas Georgie is kind of like she goes it solo. She is this incredible advocacy person that in all of her jobs is kind of like, I'm Georgie Bell and this is what I do. And so we were a clash of forces. When we both came together, it was a lot of figuring out how each other work and how to talk to each other, how to give each other feedback, how to get the best out of each other. And I mean, we're still figuring bits out. I think I might have said something to Georgie the other day that I could have said a little bit nicer. But it's actually really good. And the biggest challenge since we've launched is balancing that around a family. And we're very good at seeing an issue and then just dealing with it before it becomes a problem. And so we're very organized in how we run meetings. So we run it like a business. Every Monday we'll have a meeting where we catch up on everything that we need to do that week. We make sure that we're super clear and organized on like how we're managing the family part of everything, how we're managing the business. We divide and conquer between everything. It doesn't make sense for us to double up. We split our account lists and to like where our skill sets and everything lies. So it's been a journey, but I don't know, I'll go out and say I think it's pretty great, and I wouldn't want to work with anyone else.
No, it's actually really nice working together. As Fab said, it took a while for us to figure out how to work together, which involved a lot of, okay, we need to stop talking. Let's go for a walk, not look at each other and just say how we feel for 5 minutes and then get back and learn from that, right? And, you know, we went through that and then we were like, cool, now we know. And what's really nice actually now is we totally really admire each other's skills. And we can trust, we don't have to overthink it, you know, we can just trust that the other one's getting that job done. So, you know, we CC each other into every email, but I don't look at any, I know that there are emails, conversation supplies, I don't need to look at any of that because he's got it covered, and vice versa with me as well. So it's really nice. He loves a spreadsheet. He loves the spreadsheet. I don't. He looks at my spreadsheets and they give him anxiety because I'll just write things in boxes without, you know, formulating, you know, making them look pretty. And obviously he's come from an agency life, so that's everything that he's about. So we work very well together because of that. And we've been able to sort of very clearly say, right, this is what I'm doing, this is what you're doing. We'll come together, we'll talk. We have a WhatsApp group for just us, which obviously it's a conversation, but you know, it's the heart cut. So we park everything in there. And then especially at the end of the day, we'll try and be like, right, 7 o'clock, dinner time, no more talk about the business. So that we can actually have a life as well. So yeah, it's fun. And it is actually really nice. The Heart Cut is our dream whiskey brand. It is a brand that we've always wanted to exist, and it's so exciting that it is there, and that it's been received so warmly. And we're both really excited to watch it grow. And I think being a small business, we high five every bottle we sell, every bottle, every accolade, every nice thing people say about us, but also like if we get a piece of feedback, we can go, oh, we can act on that straight away. So yeah, we're just really happy to be business owners. It obviously comes with its challenges, but it's a fun life. So our website is www.theheartcut.com, and we're also on Instagram at The Heart Cut. So you can find loads of brand information on there and where to find us. And we're also available online through the Whiskey Exchange and Master of Malt.